channel or hit us.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Fridays on KBLA Talk 1580, right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our regular contributor, Gina Towns, the creator of the Jesse Jackson Show, joins us. So does our very special guest, Bishop Joseph William Tolton. I'll give both of them more appropriate introductions in just a moment, but I do want to say, with just less than 48 hours after the devastating Robinson versus Calais, or Louisiana versus Calais decision emanating out of the congressional district in the state of Louisiana, the political ground in the United States is already shifting. That's just how cataclysmic undermining Section 2 of the 1965 Voting Rights Act is. It was cataclysmic when they undermined in, I believe, Shelby versus Holder, Section 5, the pre-clearance provision for drawing congressional districts, which would have allowed any state legislature, and I want you all to hear me clearly, made up of Democrats and Republicans who always fight for their own interests, but don't always fight for ours. But for the preclearance provision, the preclearance provision allowed the state legislature to fight for Democrats and fight for Republicans. But that plan had to be submitted to the Justice Department. And the Justice Department, as the kind of referee in the drawing of congressional districts, would say that there's a history of discrimination against African Americans, for example, in Tennessee, or for example, in Alabama, or Mississippi, or Texas, or Georgia. And therefore, Democrats and Republicans, you must redraw the entire state's plan to give African Americans an opportunity to get elected, an equal opportunity to be elected, because of the history of housing discrimination and other forms of racism and racial discrimination in congressional districts, so that they might have a voice on the floor of the Congress. Well, as we speak, the state of Tennessee is now preparing to literally absorb the congressional district, the 9th congressional district, which is presently represented by Representative Stephen Cohen. It is one of those 1965 Voting Rights Act districts, and it is a bellwether of things to come. The 9th congressional district, once headed up by Harold Ford Sr., whom I had the privilege of serving in the Congress with, and his son, Harold Ford Jr., representing primarily Memphis, Tennessee, will now be absorbed by 3 other congressional districts in the state of Tennessee. Now, when Harold Ford Jr. left Congress, a very progressive Jewish congressman by the name of Stephen Cohen, who has been an excellent congressman representing the interests of the people of Memphis, Tennessee for the decade or 2 that he has served in Congress, and I had the privilege of serving with him when I was in Congress. He released a video saying that as these districts begin to move into rural parts of the district, he's going to do everything within his power to make sure that he puts up the strongest fight that he can possibly put up with the best Voting Rights Act lawyers in the country. But he also shared with his constituents that when the districts are redrawn, and should other members of Congress represent different portions of Memphis that were once part of a single congressional district, there will be fewer constituent services and fewer members of Congress paying attention to the basic needs of those voters, as Memphis, Tennessee is divided into 3 different congressional districts, absorbing it. Now, the bright news and the great news recently on our program was Representative Justin Pearson, who's running for the 9th congressional district in Tennessee. He also released a video criticizing the Supreme Court's Robinson versus Clay decision. And in that criticism, he would and potentially was the likely successor to Stephen Cohen in the Congress of the United States. But now that this district is literally the Black community being shifted to 3 different congressional districts across the state of Tennessee, it is less likely that Justin Pearson might emerge successfully, given that the voters are rural. Now, mind you, he was one of the 3 persons expelled from the Tennessee legislature for fighting for gun rights, or against gun rights. Well, not really against gun rights, but for the availability of guns to go into schools and shoot up people and to stop some of these horrific events that have been occurring in our schools. And he was expelled from the legislature along with Justin Johnson. And he decided to run for Congress. But the state of Tennessee is now drawing the congressional district in such a way that it might be very difficult for Mr. Pearson to have the privilege and the opportunity to represent the people of the 9th congressional district of Tennessee. The same can be said in Louisiana. Louisiana voters have already started voting. And now the governor of the state of Louisiana has said that they will not be voting on Democratic or Republican congressmen in this cycle. He's stopped all voting for congressmen, only vote for senators because they run statewide. Because now that they have the Robinson versus Clay decision, they feel empowered to redraw the entire state's congressional district to eliminate the Congressman Cleo Fields district for which the case has been created. This pattern is going to continue around the country. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, we'll be talking with Bishop Tolton on a number of critical issues, and Gina Towns will also be joining us. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Amanda is also going to be joining us at some point in time in the program. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we get forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Pakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account.
When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything.
Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh, no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Bishop Joseph William Tolton is the founder and president of Interconnected Justice, which was established in 2019. The strategic intent of the organization is to be a force uniting global racial justice movements in which the continent of Africa and its diaspora build upon ecosystems of self-defined and determined advocacy. The bishop's passion for connecting Black Lives Matter and Pan-Africanism flows from his deep convictions that the global project of our lifetime is to dismantle white supremacy and to deconstruct patriarchy. Bishop Tolton believes this is a spiritual project that demands highly connected secular activism. Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Greetings to you, dear brother Jackson. It is excellent to be with you.
Bishop, it is and was over the last 48 hours, a cataclysmic event, striking down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, hence affecting the quality of our voices on the floor of the Congress of the United States. And just before, Bishop, you and I have our conversation, I note that our producer, Gina Towns, has a clip.
And then there's Tennessee, where today Donald Trump claimed the governor there, Bill Lee, told him that he would work hard to, quote, give us one extra seat. Well, there's telling it all. It's unclear if and when Tennessee Republicans will take direct action, but this comes after Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's running to be Tennessee's next governor, said she would do everything she can to turn that state 100% red. Now, if that happens, Tennessee's 9th district, the lone seat Democrats occupy that includes Memphis and has historically been protected by the Voting Rights Act, that district would be erased. District 9 is currently represented at the state level by Justin J. Pearson, who you may recognize as one of the Tennessee Three. Pearson was temporarily expelled back in 2023 after protesting for gun rights, for stronger gun right legislation, and he is now running for the U.S. Congress in the very same district. Now, it's great to see you. I have so many questions for you about your reaction to yesterday and what this all means. But let me start with this. Earlier today, you said that Trump calling on Governor Lee to erase District 9 was an attempt to silence voices of a majority black district. Exactly what it is. You also issued your own call to action. What are you calling for in order to push back against this?
Yeah, that is exactly what is happening. It is the silence of a majority black district, the only Democratic district in our state. And the reality is this initiative by this administration and other Republicans across the South in particular would lead to the end result having millions of people disenfranchised, and particularly for black people will lead to less black representation than we've seen in decades. It'll be very similar to what happened post-Reconstruction with the retribution that happened that led to many black elected officials no longer being in positions of power. So our call to action is simple. We have a petition that we're asking people to sign to the governor, to the House, and to my Senate colleagues, asking for them not to take away District 9's representation. We will do whatever we can to defend District 9 and defend our representation in the U.S. Congress and also in the State House.
If Republicans answer Trump's call, and Lord Marsha Blackburn sounds like she wants to do that very much, this would be the second time in 4 years that Tennessee's congressional map is changed to help Republicans. I know you're in a very red state right now, but have you spoken with your Republican colleagues in the legislature? Do you know if there's a willingness to do that, or are there some who have concern?
I mean, there are some who have concerns. There are some who do not. But the reason I'm running for Congress is because I have a community organizing background and I serve as a state representative. And so we're working right now with our partners here locally and folks nationally to understand what are our options to make sure that we defend our democracy, that we protect black folks' vote and our right and ability to choose representatives who identify with our values, our culture, and who want to see a representation who looks like them. And we're not going to allow Marsha Blackburn's tweets and the maps that they're putting out to stop us from doing the advocacy work and the organizing work that we need to fight for our country and to fight for our place within this republic.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the show. So I want to, as we prepare our minds for what's taking place, when I refer to this as a cataclysmic event, we now see immediate activity taking place in the state of Louisiana to eliminate the Cleo Fields district and probably absorb his congressional district by dividing up Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans and placing them into far more conservative districts, districts that would be nearly impossible given the red county nature of the state of Louisiana, the state of Tennessee, for an African American to be elected with an authentic voice from the state of Louisiana. We have seen and can confirm from Justin Pearson and Congressman Steve Cohen that the state of Tennessee, the ground is now shifting in light of their United States Senator and Donald Trump calling into the state of Tennessee to eliminate the 9th congressional district and absorb it into 3 different congressional districts, leaving African Americans without a majority minority congressional district from which they can get elected. There will be calls now in other states around the union to essentially eliminate, Black, Hispanic, Asian, and other districts. And I want to thank in this particular hour also Judge Wendell Griffin, an Arkansas lawyer, jurist, legal educator, business leader, ordained Baptist minister, and public speaker, for his participation in our show. He has been a regular on our show, and I'm particularly grateful that the judge is with us. Over the course of the show, I'll give him obviously a more appropriate introduction. Judge Griffin, your thoughts on Robinson versus Calais?
Brother Jackson, Robinson versus Calais, as you mentioned in your intro, and as Representative Pearson mentioned just moments ago, is simply the reiteration of what happened after Reconstruction. And it is both a reminder and also a foreboding sign of what's to come. A reminder of what we've been through and a sign of what's to come. Let me give a quick refresher course. We know that the 15th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified in 1870. 1870. Reconstruction ended in 1876. 20 years later, we had Plessy v. Ferguson. And 1890, Louisiana had over 50,000 registered Black men who were voting. By 1900, 4 years after Plessy v. Ferguson, that number had been virtually decimated. And so we are seeing now a repetition of what's going on. Robinson versus Calais, Louisiana versus Calais, is simply, if I may use graphic language, is the same mess in a different toilet.
No doubt about it. And I was reading a really interesting article, which I have been espousing since I have been a radio personality just yesterday, that what begins in the South does not stay in the South. Right. This is going to impact the California map, going to impact the Illinois map, it's going to impact the Missouri map, it's going to impact the North Carolina, the South Carolina map. Jim Clyburn has a new book out called The First Eight, where he talks about the Voting Rights Act and how those 8 African American, out of loyalty to Abraham Lincoln, the first 8 African Americans in the state of South Carolina were Lincoln Republicans because of Lincoln's efforts at helping eliminate and ending the peculiar institution of slavery. And that he is now the 9th, and he's been the only African American elected to Congress since 1992 from the state of South Carolina.
Right.
In second Reconstruction, and given his present age and given the present attack on the Voting Rights Act, we could be looking at the elimination of the Clyburn district. Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for your kindness and your patience, brother. It's very good to be with you and our dear judge.
Bishop Tolton, the judge just offered a fairly glim view of what the consequences are of the Louisiana versus Calais decision. Bishop Tolton, as one of the nation's most significant and influential LGBTQ activists, this decision is not just limited to Black people. It's limited to Asians, Hispanics, to any minority, and certainly fewer and fewer voices in legislatures and in the Congress of the United States might even be from the LGBT community going forward. Bishop?
We are in a moment in which American history, in which white dominion, and I use those words decidedly, not dominion and not white supremacy, because I think perhaps we may need to stop thinking of this as white supremacy because it implies supremacy. This is about white dominion and white denomination being renormalized as the organizing logic of the socio-political order in this country. All of that is in service of securing a system in which America's capitalism can operate as an uncontested truth, meaning that American capitalism can operate and be treated as the inevitable economic framework for a civilized society. And once that gets locked and baked in, what they're able to do is to constitute an economic order that can live for the next 250 to 500 years. That economic order, in turn, reinforces their socio-economic logic that undergirds all of this. So yes, it is absolutely about white dominion. And to your point, it will affect Latino Americans, it will affect Asian Americans, it will affect queer Americans, because there is a very clear logic that is being entrenched here. I do think it's important to highlight that they will always give a certain percentage of minorities the opportunity to participate in their system. If one chooses to denounce one's solidarity with one's own race and identity and drink from the chalice of white dominion and declare that it, in fact, is the only sociological way that we can organize ourselves and be completely integrated into the American society. We've got to go back to the American Revolution. It was a patriot revolution for white men to establish a very particular society that had a very particular order. They are now recreating that system of patriotism, and they are introducing it as an absolute truth, giving very little access to few minorities to be able to enter that system so that they can justify it as being, to some degree, diverse and fully accessible to all Americans. This is about the full implementation of white dominion as the organizing logic of our socio-political system in this country.
It doesn't get much clearer than that. Judge Griffin, we have about 2.5 minutes before we come forward. Judge Griffin, please, your response.
I agree with what the bishop just now said, and I will go one step, not beyond that, but one step to reiterate what he just said. In Arkansas, where I live, we currently have a black candidate for Congress from Little Rock. Dr. Chris Jones is running for Congress from the most populous, most diverse county in Arkansas. But 3 years ago, the state legislature redivided Pulaski County and the 2nd Congressional District and split it 3 ways in anticipation of Calais. In anticipation of Calais. So what the bishop is saying is so right on. This is about white dominion, and it is about every organization, every group that poses a challenge to white dominion and white patriarchy, white dominion patriarchy. He's right on.
I suspect when we come forward, and I'd like to bring this to both of your attention, I suspect that, for example, this attack also on the Southern Poverty Law Center is not the last attack we're going to see on progressive African-American organizations who have fought against white supremacy and white patriarchy in the South. I suspect that the Trump administration is determined to make them spend their money, to tie them up in court legally, and also make these organizations less effective in the struggle for human rights and social justice as we journey to build a more perfect union for all Americans. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. My very special guest in this hour is none other than Judge Wendell Griffin from Arkansas. He's a lawyer, jurist, and legal educator and business leader, ordained Baptist minister, and Bishop William Toten, founder and president of the Interconnected Justice organization, which was established in 2019. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580, both the bishop and the reverend when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now.
The people united will never be defeated.
May Day demonstrations took place in cities across the country. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson praised teachers and students for joining the protests, which focus on workers' rights, pay, in opposition to President Trump's policies. Governor Brian Kemp says Georgia will not redraw its congressional maps this year. Kemp says the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on Louisiana's majority black district restores fairness to redistricting, but with voting already underway for 2026, Georgia will wait until before the 2028 election cycle to redraw its maps. And Drewski will host this year's BET Awards, becoming the youngest host in the show's 25-year history. The 31-year-old comedian says he grew up watching the awards and is grateful to be part of its legacy. The show, celebrating Black excellence in entertainment and sports, airs June 28th in Los Angeles. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry. Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Netflix's first MMA supercard hits into it Dome Saturday, May 16th. Be there live. Tickets on sale via Ticketmaster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Interesting decision facing Lakers head coach J.J. Redick for Game 6 tonight in Houston. Should he return Austin Reeves to the starting lineup or bring him off the bench and keep Luke Kennard as a starter? Reeves had a strong game Wednesday night and the Lakers lost in Game 5, 22 points in 34 minutes off the bench. It was his first game since April 2nd. After averaging 21.3 points in the first 3 games against Houston, Kennard has scored only 8 points combined in the last 2. He also hasn't made a three-pointer since Game 3. The Lakers need everybody on point tonight to avoid coming back to LA Sunday for Game 7. Tonight at 6, it's your Friday night sports fix. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds, 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. You can hang out with us on the KBLA YouTube channel or hit us up at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You better work.
She's rooted in culture and rising in power. Los Angeles City Council member Karen D. Price Jr. invites you to the District 9 Women's Leadership Summit, a powerful gathering celebrating the women who shape our communities. Join us Sunday, May 3rd from 1 to 6 p.m. Registration is open now, but space is limited. District 9 residents receive special priority. This event is free. Call 323-846-2651 to reserve your spot. That's 323-846-2651. Be rooted, be powerful, be there.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
The Joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Wally drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Fat Meat Fridays, and our regular contributing host, Gina Towns, will join us in the next hour. But in this hour, distinguished Judge Wendell L. Griffin, on April 15, 1985, Governor Bill Clinton appointed him chairman of the Arkansas Workers' Compensation Commission, making Judge Griffin the first person of color named to that state agency and the first to chair it. Judge Griffin served in that position until February 2nd, 1987, when he returned to his law practice with Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Governor Guy Tucker appointed Judge Griffin to the Circuit Court of Appeals at the end of 1995, and he entered judicial service in 1996. And while on the Court of Appeals, the judge also remained active in professional, civic, and religious life, including service as president of the Pulaski County Bar Association, pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church of Little Rock, and parliamentarian of the National Baptist Convention, USA, Inc. Judge, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I can't hear the judge. Also, I want to welcome Judge. Can you unmute your microphone?
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh, not a problem, Judge. Welcome forward to the show. I'm also welcoming Bishop William Tolton back to our show, founder and president of Interconnected Justice. As an LBT Global Faith leader, Bishop Tolton continues to serve as the Bishop of Global Ministries for the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. In this capacity, he designs and manages TFAM's justice ministries and collaborations outside of the United States with a focus on East Africa. Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show as well.
It's so good to be with both of you. Thank you.
So glad that both of you are here. I just want to comment very quickly on part of the catastrophic nature of what has occurred by striking down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I was sharing with our producer during the break. You've got to imagine that when I ran for Congress in 1995, the congressional district that I represented stopped at the end, essentially, of Fulton County. And so when I went to the floor of the Congress, Judge and Bishop, I could argue from a historical perspective that included the heaviest African-American philosophers and thinkers about the progress of our people, how we ended up on the south side of Chicago, the south suburbs, you name the scholars. I've studied them and I put forward the best arguments. They were heard. And essentially for 9 terms, I was overwhelmingly returned to Congress. When I ran for Congress this last time, the 2nd Congressional District not only begins just a few streets north of where I presently live in the city, and I have not moved in 35 years, It now goes 3.5 hours almost to Champaign, Urbana, Illinois. I spent a considerable amount of my time in the last quarter of the last year in Vermilion County, in Champaign County, in Kankakee County, and Bourbonnais, and folks that were never part of the original congressional district. I saw their needs. I heard their concerns. I made the parallel, Bishop Tolton, between those needs and the needs that we had in urban areas. But I was also very clear that I had to articulate a broader vision for this district if I wanted to win than just my side of town. Then I had to overcome, Judge, this idea that, you know, everything bad comes from Chicago. And it's Jesse Jackson's son. and Brandon Johnson's in Chicago, and that's where the crime is, and that's where the schools aren't feeling. And coming down south, we're bringing Chicago style values. That's a nice way of saying black. Chicago style values to their communities. You know, so vote conservative becomes the kind of rallying cry. So now I'm looking at where Memphis, you know, is that black city, or Little Rock is that city, and people say, you know, here they come, y'all. Here they come. We're not with the Memphis politicians, the machine of Memphis, and we're not with the Little Rock machine. So it becomes even more difficult for African American elected officials to reach out to the new dynamics of the district, which also changes their voice and the effectiveness of their voices when they're on the floor of the Congress or the Senate or any of these legislative bodies, articulating legitimate historical needs and concerns of our people and our community. So when I say cataclysmic, let me close on this. Soon we will be having another mayor's race in the city of Chicago. Historically, the three black congressmen from the city of Chicago endorse the African-American mayor because that makes sense. We've longed to have an African-American control of the city. But as these districts extend far out of the city, you'll see African-American congressmen who will say, I'm going to stay out of the city's race. The mayor got to fight for himself. I'm not getting in that. Why? Because I don't want to scare my white folks. I've been spending too much time trying to convince them I'm not from Chicago, but that I represent their interests. Now, that's not my attitude or disposition. That's the reality of it all. But the force of my personality, Bishop Tolton and Judge Griffin, who I know is standing for election as we speak right now, those are the dynamics of what it means to be a candidate when the landscape underneath the foundation of our community begins shifting politically. Let me start with Bishop Tolton. Bishop? Bishop, I think you're muted.
Yes, I'm trying. Let me say that. I was actually, one of the most irritating things about the decision was the fact that, am I audible?
I think you might have your headphones on. And
No. What is this any better?
No, tell him that.
Bishop, let me let Judge Griffin speak. Let me let you come in and come in. Bishop, Your Honor.
Real talk. You just now brought some real talk, Brother Jackson, that our listeners need to hear. I identify with that because the truth of the matter is, as you found out in your last campaign, the more and more of your downstate constituents had to be part of your discourse as you tried to represent your district. And in the Chicago race, Mayor, as you more and more congressmen, hey, I want to get in that race because I may lose some of my constituents. That's real talk. Now, the irony is as Justice Thurgood Marshall mentioned, I mentioned Thurgood Marshall, as Justice Thurgood Marshall mentioned 40 years ago almost. The irony is that the same amendment that was added to the Constitution to address racism, the 15th Amendment, and the same Voting Rights Act that was meant to enact to address racism is now being used to oppose remedies for racism. And that's the bitter irony.
No, there's no doubt about it. And anytime you've got white plaintiffs, now, in addition to that real talk, the Republican candidate or even a plaintiff in the district.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 15.
Can file a lawsuit, and in filing that lawsuit, they can say that they are discriminated against by the lines that were drawn that made me the congressman.
Right.
Therefore, locking up all of my time in court as the congressman. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We're having real talk about what's going on with this Voting Rights Act. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
The disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelenos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $3 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
When the Republican supermajority expelled me, they silenced the voice of my district, District 52, which is 78,000 people who don't have a representative right now. 78,000 people, predominantly black and brown. If you go to the high school in Antioch, which is a part of my district, they speak over 62 languages in that high school. And you know, that's the greatest harm that's happening, is that when they expelled me, it wasn't about me, but it was about silencing the voices of those 78,000 people. And so this is the first expulsion based strictly on a quote-unquote breach of decorum, and it really, I think you can't separate it from the fact that, you know, I am one of the youngest black lawmakers. Pearson's, you know, I'm 27, Pearson's 28. We are both the youngest black lawmakers in the state, and then you have Sister Gloria. I'm one of 2 Democratic women in the state house, and as many people know, you know, Gloria was not expelled, but we were, and so there definitely is a racial component, and I believe that it is a form of suppressing the voice of my district, who sent me there to fight for them and to get in good trouble.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour is Judge Wendell Griffin, and I want to apologize. Bishop Tolton will join us again in the not too distant future. Just a small technical difficulty with respect to his communication apparatus today. Judge, listen, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. That was Justin Johnson, and earlier in our clip we heard from Justin Pearson. I call them the 2 Justins, Pearson and Johnson, both of whom came to national prominence fighting for gun control in the Tennessee legislature. One of them is running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, whose voice on the floor of the Congress, either one of them, but both of them certainly, would have been so extraordinary for democracy and for our people, and expressing a diversity of interests for people that have been left behind since the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, let alone first Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and most of second Reconstruction, of course, depending upon the orientation of the congressmen themselves and their desire to provide genuine service to the constituents that they represent. There's no doubt in my mind these 2 young men that I'm particularly fond of would have brought that kind of representation. My concern is we will never hear their voices on the national level, because the likelihood that an African American can win statewide in Tennessee for the governor's mansion or either one of the Senate seats means that they could very well spend their entire careers in the state legislature. And the Robinson versus Calais decision, according to Black Voters Matter, could very well get rid of 191 black state representatives and state senators around the country, because this decision is not just limited to congressional representation. Judge Griffin?
You're exactly right. And let me go even beyond that. In Tennessee, in Louisiana, where Robinson versus Calais was bounded, I mean, Cleo Fields' district was involved. The Justin Pearson's district in Memphis is involved. The situation in Arkansas, the race with Chris Jones against French Hill is involved. We have a black man, Fred Love, running against Sarah Huckabee Sanders. for governor. There has never been a black elected official elected statewide in Arkansas. If we have the Robinson versus Calais decision standing up, we're going to see a lessening in the number of blacks in legislative districts, brown people in legislative districts, LGBTQ people in legislative districts, progressive-minded white people in legislative districts, young people in these districts. But also remember, in over 30 states, judges are elected. And they're elected state and by districts. And in Arkansas, we had the most number of elected judges as a result of a settlement in 1991 that was involved the 15th Amendment and voting rights. So the Robinson versus Calais decision puts all this in jeopardy.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm thinking in this moment that, and I know that you're going to be with us in the next hour, Judge, and I'm so grateful that you came over to spend some time with us in this hour. So you're going to get 2 words of hope on our show today. I'm thinking in this moment that when you think about the broad ramifications of what it means to strike down the foundation under which African Americans have enjoyed representation, the ultimate voter suppression tactic of the Trump administration and of this era is if Black people don't see commercials, don't see Black folk running for office because they can't win. And so you say, why am I going to vote? Because whoever I'm voting for doesn't know my neighborhood, doesn't speak for what I'm about, doesn't talk my talk, ain't preaching on Sunday morning, ain't at no Freedom Fund dinners. You know, the ultimate voter suppression is the fact that we will have fewer people running for office in the future because they're not well funded or well financed. They just simply will opt out of the process, and it will turn voters off because we don't have people even in the game because they conclude they can't win.
Disenfranchisement begins with disenfranchising the vision and the minds of the electorate. If you disempower the mind and the will of the electorate to participate in democracy, you don't have to worry about them going to the polls to vote.
That sounds like the miseducation of the Negro and Carter G. Woodson. He said, if you can become so accustomed to being told that you cannot enter the front of this restaurant or the front of this movie theater and get so used to going in the back door that even if there is no back door, you will get a saw and a chisel and cut a hole in the back just because you are so used to going in the back, even though you've now been given permission to walk in the front door. Carter G. Woodson begins the miseducation of Negro as a sociologist with that example right there.
Amen. Amen. And Steve Biko picked it up when he said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.
The most potent weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So free your mind.
Yeah.
And that's what this process has been about. We're not going backwards, we're going forward. We're trying to find a way out of the condition that 4.5 centuries, as we commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Frederick Douglass's take on July 4th is beginning to make more and more sense on what it is we are celebrating and or not celebrating, as the very freedoms that we have come to enjoy are being taken away from us right before us. We're going to have to come up with some strategies, Judge, to get around this until such time as we can be granted some relief, either by the courts or by some miracle from heaven. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Judge Wendell Griffin is our very special guest in this hour, and he will be joining us again in the next hour. We're talking about the devastating nation of the Robinson versus Calais decision and what it means when we drop our rod and we do not vote, when we do not use what God has given us. The extraordinary consequences will be felt for generations. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward in just a moment.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. May Day demonstrations took place in cities across the country. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson praised teachers and students for joining the protests, which focus on workers' rights, pay, and opposition to President Trump's policies. Governor Brian Kemp says Georgia will not redraw its congressional maps this year. Kemp says the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on Louisiana's majority black district restores fairness to redistricting, but with voting already underway for 2026, Georgia will wait until before the 2028 election cycle to redraw its maps. And Drewski will host this year's BET Awards, becoming the youngest host in the show's 25-year history. The 31-year-old comedian says he grew up watching the awards and is grateful to be part of its legacy. The show, celebrating Black excellence in entertainment and sports, airs June 28th in Los Angeles. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry. Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Netflix first MMA supercard hits Intuit Dome. Saturday, May 16th. Be there live. Tickets on sale via Ticketmaster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Interesting decision facing Lakers head coach J.J. Redick for Game 6 tonight in Houston. Should he return Austin Reeves to the starting lineup or bring him off the bench and keep Luke Kennard as a starter? Reeves had a strong game Wednesday night and the Lakers lost in Game 5, 22 points in 34 minutes off the bench. It was his first game since April 2nd. After averaging 21.3 points in the first 3 games against Houston, Kennard has scored only 8 points combined in the last 2. He also hasn't made a 3-pointer since Game 3. The Lakers need everybody on point tonight to avoid coming back to LA Sunday for Game 7. Tonight at 6, it's your Friday night sports fix. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds, 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. You can hang out with us on the KBLA YouTube channel or hit us up at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's That Meat Fridays. And our very special guest is Judge Wendell L. Griffin, an Arkansas lawyer, jurist, legal educator, business leader, ordained Baptist minister, and public speaker. We're live in Los Angeles, California, and via the app, we are live all over the world. We have calls from Johannesburg, South Africa, from the UK in England. We have calls from Tennessee. We have calls from the city of Chicago and New York. Grateful for the global participation in our show. On April 15, 1985, Governor Bill Clinton appointed Judge Griffin chairman of the Arkansas Workers' Compensation Commission, making the judge the first person of color named to that state agency and the first to chair it. Governor Jim Guy Tucker appointed Judge Griffin to the Court of Appeals at the end of 1995. He entered judicial service in 1996. Judge Griffin is presently a candidate for judge in Arkansas again after leaving retirement, largely, I believe, being called because the times demand his parables, politics, and prophetic faith to be in ministry in public life. Judge, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you very, very much. It's good to be with you, and thank you for mentioning I am a candidate for county judge, which is the CEO position in county government in Pulaski County. So thank you very much for mentioning my candidacy.
Judge, all of your life you lived in the South, from Virginia around to Texas. The Voting Rights Act has played a particular role, particularly Section 5, which you know was the Department of Justice's pre-clearance provision written into the law, which was struck down, I think, by Shelby versus Holder. And we had some sense that all of this was coming with Shaw versus Reno during the Clinton administration. But here we are with Robinson versus Clay, the striking down essentially of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And the very remedy that you said in the last segment that was designed to offset racism, because when Democrats and Republicans, just as they are in Justin Pearson and Justin Johnson's elections in Tennessee, when they get together in a legislature by themselves, they always divide up the state and the world according to what looks like them. But for the Voting Rights Act saying, no, you've got to carve out these groups of people that have been left out so that they can have a voice on the floor of these legislative bodies. This isn't just about the Republicans, because the Republicans don't draw these lines in the states themselves. This also includes a lot of Democratic interests, because when the race dynamic is no longer a factor, they're still going to be fighting for more Democrats. And we're just going to be trapped into a cycle of people who may or may not provide us with representation. Judge?
You're exactly right. If the economy of power, the vote, is determined by who has access to the market, the voters will not choose the politicians will choose the voters. And that's what's happening now. The Voting Rights Act was, as you mentioned, intended to help Black voters elect politicians who represented their interests, whatever color or party they were. But now the Voting Rights Act is being used to disempower Black voters from electing the politicians of their choice, irrespective of the party, but it is being used by, and let's be very clear, it's been used by white men who have turned into, who formerly would have been Democrats, who turned into Republicans after Ronald Reagan, and have been since Ronald Reagan doing this retrograde work. But let's remember that Richard Nixon started this when he brought William Rehnquist to the Supreme Court, and Ronald Reagan brought Rehnquist to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and William Rehnquist had John Roberts as one of his acolytes.
I have to remind people.
Get this,
Judge. I have to remind people that as we turn our attention to these state legislative bodies, that, for example, African Americans largely live in Cook County, a couple of the collar counties around Cook County, but there are dozens of other counties outside of the state of Illinois, including the state capital, which is downstate Illinois in Springfield.
Right.
And every state has some state capital and some downstate part. I mean, there are state legislators, both Democrats and Republicans, who are still members of country clubs that have never admitted a Black.
Yes.
And have never had to admit a Black, because we live up in Cook County. We don't live down there with them. And so their orientation on the golf course still doesn't consider our thinking or the interests of our community. They are very narrow in their focus, and some of them are amazingly quiet in light of the Louisiana versus Clay decision. They're not saying very much because once they don't want to offend Black voters, but they do have a plan B. And that plan B is, well, we may not have black representation, but vote Democrat anyway. Talk to me, Judge.
That is one of the unspoken, but very big elephants in the room. And I am glad you mentioned it, because one of the problems we now face is that Democratic Party leaders, Republican Party leaders, who may have previously paid lip service to inclusion of black voters' interests, no longer pay lip service anymore. But they can say, listen, if you vote for me, you will have access. You'll have access, but you will have no power, because all I got to do is let you sit in the outer office and come sit down with you for a photo op, and then vote against your interests until it's time for the next election.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are honored on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Fat Meat Friday to have Judge Wendell L. Griffin, an Arkansas lawyer, jurist, legal educator, and candidate for judge in Arkansas. More when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Pacoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account. When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything. Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on wanna talk with me, come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Fat Meat Fridays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour is none other than the Honorable Wendell Griffin, a Arkansas County judge. Here's a statement that the judge released just yesterday in light of the Calais decision. He quotes and he writes, "The six-justice Calais majority are ideologically opposed to remembering the sorry truth about the long, persistent history of racial injustice surrounding voting in Louisiana and elsewhere. They do not suffer from dementia, but social, political, and judicial dishonesty, not willful ignorance, not absent-mindedness, deceitfulness. The Calais decision is the latest proof that the Supreme Court of the United States has willfully, maliciously, and irreversibly descended into a moral, political, and judicial sewer. It is now up to the voters to show that we will not join their descent into that hole, but to cover them in it." Judge, those were some heavy, heavy comments that you made regarding the Calais decision.
I stand by those statements. I don't think we can pretend that this is something different from what it is. These six justices have basically abandoned any pretense at honesty, of integrity, or impartiality. And I say that for every single one of them. Samuel Alito, John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, all six of them lack any semblance of judicial integrity. Each of them said at their confirmation hearings they would follow precedent. They denied, they refused to follow precedent in the Calais decision. Each of them said they would respect the Constitution. They refused to respect the 13th Amendment, which is the last of the three post-Civil War amendments that was added to the Constitution as an act of remedy race-based discrimination. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was enacted to remedy racial discrimination in voting. And for them to use measures that were added to the Constitution and to our legislative code as a sword against the people who had been most disenfranchised and turned against is deceitfulness. And I don't call it differently because we need to call mess what it is. It's just mess. You can't shine mess and make it something else. You can't sugarcoat it and make it something else. And you sure can't package up and it becomes anything other than packaged mess. And so this is black robe mess.
Judge, let me ask you one more question, if you don't mind. And you're going to hear it for the first time, our listeners, right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. With Section 2 and 5 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 essentially being gutted, I'm going to make a prediction that within a year, mark this date, that Brown versus the Board of Education is gone too. That they're going to change that interpretation and strike that case down. Judge, your thoughts about the safety, the security, and what becomes of Brown versus the Board of Education?
I'm going to quote somebody you know very well, Reverend Jeremiah Wright Jr., who wrote the foreword to the last book that I wrote, Parables, Politics, and Prophetic Faith, co-wrote with Alan Bouzak. Alan Bouzak and I asked Jeremiah Wright to write that foreword, and in the foreword, you'll find it. Jeremiah Wright predicted that if the Supreme Court of the United States does not change its course, it is only a matter of time before Brown versus Board of Education is on the chopping block. His words, now your words, and I think you are both right.
I think that's right. I want to play a clip now from Senator Raphael Warnock.
Always watch what they do, not what they say. The Supreme Court just gutted the Voting Rights Act, a civil rights law that has been on the books for 60 plus years. It is a law that Dr. King, John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, Viola Luiso, and so many others marched and spilled blood for. It is a colossal step backwards for the vibrant multiracial democracy that so many fought so hard to build in our country. If you want to understand why the Supreme Court just did this, you have to look at what politicians are doing. Because ultimately, this is an effort by politicians to decide who their voters are, as opposed to having the voters choose who their politicians are. So let me break it down. During Jim Crow segregation, politicians would draw maps to shut out black voters, to diminish the power of their vote and their voice. And one way was to take a large group of black voters and split them into multiple districts so that they were always a minority and their votes never really mattered. That's called cracking. Another way was to take a large group of black voters, large enough to be majorities in 2 districts, and put them all into 1 district. That's called packing. And through tactics like packing and cracking, creatively drawing the lines, craven politicians who sought to maintain Jim Crow were able to successfully strip black voters of their political power even when they show up. They were able to silence and diminish their voices in our democracy. The Voting Rights Act put a stop to this. Fast forward to today. Before the Supreme Court decision, politicians in many southern states, including my own state of Georgia, were literally lining up plans to deprive black citizens of representation by this very same mechanism. And now they're saying the quiet part out loud, that they plan to take cohesive black communities and minimize their influence. That's why we need the Voting Rights Act, because these abuses are happening in real time. Without it, these politicians will move to deprive black voters of their voice. They will move to do the very thing that the Voting Rights Act was meant to prevent. This was all telegraphed beforehand. None of this was in secret. And yet Trump's Supreme Court chose to ignore that. They chose to roll back the clock because there is an extreme movement in this country that is willing to do anything to stay in power. And if that means dragging us back to the days of Jim Crow, so be it.
That was Senator Raphael Warnock. That was Senator Raphael Warnock. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 on Fat Meat Fridays. Gina Towns, our creator, is joining us in this hour. Gina, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hi, Jesse.
Gina, is the judge still with us?
The judge is still with us.
Judge Wendell Griffin, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our creator has now joined the show with us.
Sister Gina, God bless you. It's good to hear your voice.
Hello, Judge. How are you?
I'm doing well and sharing righteous indignation as you are, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Gina, I was having an interesting conversation with the judge about some of the far-reaching consequences of this decision, which range all the way from the Congress and Senate of the United States all the way down to dog catcher, because any of these lines can be drawn in such a way as to be seen outside of the scope of the Supreme Court's intent. Talking about legislating from the bench, we actually have a piece of legislation from Congress that seeks to remedy and provide for the general welfare of the American people, because Congress knows better than lifetime appointed judges about what's taking place in these cities, in these states, and in between these districts and where people live. And now the Supreme Court finds itself actually legislating, striking down this particular piece of legislation, which has been largely responsible for democracy in our nation over the last decade, last 50 or 60 or 70 or so years. Judge, I know we have you for just a few more moments. Your thoughts on the future of the democratic experiment if a remedy, one, is not brought forward comparable. And number two, can I make a suggestion that the idea in this climate of fighting for anything that is black is immensely unpopular? If fighting for a new form of the Voting Rights Act, which is seen in this environment as only helping black folk, only helping Hispanic folk, becomes a kind of political non-starter. It wasn't a non-starter last week. It wasn't a non-starter 2 years ago. It wasn't a non-starter 10 years ago. It certainly wasn't a non-starter after 1965, but one could argue it's a non-starter today. That the fundamental right to vote, Judge, is still not in the Constitution of the United States for all Americans. As you know, the right to vote in America is a state right. And that is why we end up with so many different state systems. And I share with our listeners all the time, if after 9/11 we can come up with one system of boarding airplanes with people with blue shirts on and badges, and you can't get a bottle of water on the airplane in Little Rock, in Chicago, in New York, in Los Angeles, because they have the same standards, our democracy ought to have a system that is managed, controlled, and run by a similar method of organization so that there is no disparities or distinction between the states. And that requires, Judge, a constitutional amendment. That's not a non-starter because it includes everybody and not just fighting for black representation. Judge?
Hear, hear. That requires a constitutional amendment. Do we have the political will and the moral courage to say so? And what happens if we lack both the political will and the moral courage to say so, and our allies lack the political will and moral courage to say so? You can have a label on a bottle, but nothing in the bottle that fits the label. And you can call it a democracy, label it, but if inside it nothing is working for the benefit of the demos, of the people who are in the masses, it is simply a mislabeled bottle. And at some point, people stop looking to the bottle for remedies. They decide they want to throw the bottle. Watch out then.
Judge, thank you for your time and best of luck in your race.
Thank you very much. God be with you, and thanks for talking with me.
You're always welcome back, Judge. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Fridays with our creator, Gina Towns. Gina, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, Jesse.
Gina, what do you think about your insights? Your insights on what the judge had to say. He had a lot to say now.
Well, you know what? Let's go back to his statement. We'll start right there as we approach our break. The 6-justice Calais majority are opposed to remembering the sorry truth. They're not opposed to it. They just don't want to do it. They are complicit. He's right. This is not willful ignorance. This is willingly participating in a plan that really has been going on for a long time. This is how I look at it. There was no reason to fix public schools if you were headed in this direction. So why fix public schools? Why spend money where you eventually were going to get to taking the right to be represented away, or the right to participate in the process of representation? And so you look at Justin and Justin, the next generation of brilliant leaders, and they intended to put a stop to that. And to do that, they had to do it at the Supreme Court level. I know that we are headed towards our break, and we can continue that when we come forward.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Friday. Some people don't believe fat meat is greasy. We've been telling you all since we've been on the air here at KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to impact the state of California. It's going to impact whether or not Hakeem Jeffries is the next Speaker of the House. It will impact the Congressional Black Caucus and whether or not we can hold Democrats accountable as well as the administration accountable, because there are always these Fettermans who are out there who always find a reason to work with Republicans against our interests as well. I'd rather have Raphael Warnock speaking for me than anybody else. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Amber Payton with BIN News Now. 9-year-old Kyari King Harris is safe after a Detroit Department of Transportation bus driver helped police find him. Driver Thomas Bergen recognized Harris from a missing child alert and reported when the boy got off near a McDonald's in Lincoln Park.
I'm glad that he stayed on the bus, until the end.
Black Detroit Mayor Mary Sheffield later honored Bergen for helping bring him home. President Trump is telling Congress he does not need authorization for military operations in Iran right now. In a letter marking the 60-day point under the War Powers Resolution, Trump says he ordered an April 7th ceasefire. And Governor Abigail Spanberger is ordering flags across Virginia to fly at half staff next week to honor Dr. Serena Fairfax and all victims of domestic violence. Dr. Fairfax was shot and killed by her husband, former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, who was Black, before he died by suicide. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry. Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Netflix first MMA Supercard hits Intuit Dome Saturday, May 16th. Be there live. Tickets on sale via Ticketmaster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Interesting decision facing Lakers head coach JJ Redick for Game 6 tonight in Houston. Should he return Austin Reeves to the starting lineup or bring him off the bench and keep Luke Kennard as a starter? Reeves had a strong game Wednesday night and the Lakers lost in Game 5, 22 points in 34 minutes off the bench. It was his first game since April 2nd. After averaging 21.3 points in the first 3 games against Houston, Kennard has scored only 8 points combined in the last 2. He also hasn't made a 3-pointer since Game 3. The Lakers need everybody on point tonight to avoid coming back to LA Sunday for Game 7. Tonight at 6, it's your Friday night sports fix. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds, 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. You can hang out with us on the KBLA YouTube channel or hit us up at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
The joint will be jumping.
Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Fat Meat Fridays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Our creator, the creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, is a graduate of Hampton University and also recent graduate of Princeton Theological Seminary with a Master of Arts in Theology. She was a former recording artist whose song, Yes, hit the top of the charts at number 26. And I'm so grateful that Gina is the creator and here with us today. Gina, welcome forward to the show.
Hi, Jesse. How are you?
I'm doing just great, Gina. Listen, a couple of quick points about this decision. It's broad-ranging. It's wide-ranging. I'm afraid our people haven't quite woken up to the idea that there could be fewer of us running in public offices in the future because of the likelihood that we cannot simply win statewide. To run a campaign in a congressional district, by the way, I raised under $300,000. I finished second. My opponent, well-financed by outside forces, spent $7.5 million to beat me in the 2nd Congressional District of Illinois. And so I can only imagine that the cost of running for Congress in the future in districts that require you to be on network television, to do radio, to do mail, to do marketing is just going to be out of reach for the average authentic representative of Black people. Gina, you were talking about this has been a long plan in the making during the break.
Well, yeah, now I want to comment on what you just said.
Do both.
That is ridiculous in and of itself. Nobody should have to spend that kind of money. And I dare say if the founders, the framers of our Constitution, albeit they had some issues, they would never have even imagined that an election would cost someone that much money to win. And I was about to say buy. So let me go ahead and say, in some instances, it is to buy. And you find the increase of people spending more and more money accelerating over the last few decades. And you find more and more wealthy people landing in Congress. And that's not everybody, but it too often is getting to be the norm. So that's number one, because that's not fair. And it is not a just representation of our nation. So that having been said, now I want to shift to the fact that you talked about earlier yesterday. You said that you hadn't been able to sleep, that this thing had rattled you. And I think that too many
Meaning
people
the
are
Calais
not
decision.
rattled. The
Calais
Calais
decision.
decision.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it rattled me. Yeah.
You know, and then there was the promise of the SAVE Act. Certainly, we heard some of this during the last election from candidate for president and then Vice President Kamala Harris, who rightfully has said on occasion, "I told you so." But I think a greater comment that you made today was that when you are used to going in a certain door, and then someone tells you can go in another door, but you're so used to going in that door that you will cut a hole. And I say that because we've seen our communities deteriorate. And it is primarily in the urban areas where we live, where we migrated from the South to. And, you know, I was commenting before this break that that's why public education never got the attention in the areas that we're talking about right now, be it Atlanta, be it some parts of New York, so south side of Chicago. I don't know at what point we did stop paying attention. And sometimes you don't know what to ask for. But I will say, when you get used to something, you get complacent, then you fall prey to people who are complicit, like what has happened with the Supreme Court and the instance of people being silenced when they are trying to say something. For instance, your book, A More Perfect Union, and when you offered amendments, because really that was the only thing that was going to remedy the problem of education and voting rights, was to not just have an act, not policy, but it has to be a constitutional amendment. And as this trek has gone on, going all the way back and before Barack Obama's pick for the Supreme Court was taken away from him, you know, we have been very complacent, and that is on the part of the Democratic Party. So you know, where do we go from here? Is it mass education to help everyone understand what has actually happened, to build coalitions?
I got to be honest with you. I'm just a few short weeks ago at the National Action Network conference. I listened to all of the Democratic candidates who came, save for the governor of California, who had a previous appointment. But I'm confident he'll be at future events during the summer, led by civil rights organizations around the country. No worry and no disrespect there, intended, I'm sure, from the governor. But I can share this. I don't see the Voting Rights Act as being the issue that turns out Black people in the midterms. I just don't see it. I mean, how many elections, and let's test ourselves, have we always heard, we need to vote because Martin Luther King was killed. We need to vote because Malcolm was killed. We need to vote because this is what Rosa Parks sat down about. We need to vote. Well, now we've already tested that message. We've been testing it since all of them have been gone. Mm-hmm. And increasingly, if I had to put it on a chart, our turnout is going down. In some cases, it's fractured. We've got some Blacks, including Black Republicans, who decided to vote with Trump in the last election, right? And so we've been using the civil rights movement as the basis for why we should vote, the sacrifices that our parents have made, my parents have made for us to get where we are. We've been saying that for a minute, and we haven't been voting. So that hasn't been working. So I don't see how elevating the catastrophic nature of the Voting Rights Act, which should be elevated, it's certainly a level of consciousness, I don't see it as the issue that moves the masses. And for the crop of candidates that I saw, if they're running to reinstate the Voting Rights Act, which I think they all should, That's my opinion. If you want my vote, you're going to run to reinstate the Voting Rights Act or to support the John Lewis voter empowerment legislation that's been offered as a remedy, which would take precedence over the Supreme Court decision. But those candidates would be seen as fighting for something for Black people only. Now, if you think the last election was polarized because of, some of the issues that we saw on commercials that were particularly polarizing, in this anti-DEI environment, you let one of these candidates say that, I want more Blacks in Congress. That's like them running saying they're going to do something about Trump's executive orders. I have not heard one of them yet say they're going to give 300,000 Black women their jobs back yet, because they don't want to be identified in those red states with having undone something Trump has already done that they're happy with. And so we're looking for a unique kind of courage here. I like Wes Moore. I like Raphael Warnock. I think Kamala is on it, but I don't think we should stop there. I think we need to have about a half a dozen Negro people running for president in this cycle, holding everybody accountable. And whoever we get through the eye of that needle, whoever we get through the eye of South Carolina, let them keep on running. But as long as they're making our case, run, Jesse Jackson Sr., run. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. My dad was just that kind of Negro. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelenos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit LADWP.com/leap. That's LADWP.com/LEAP.
You better work.
She's rooted in culture and rising in power. Los Angeles City Council member Karen D. Price Jr. invites you to the District 9 Women's Leadership Summit, a powerful gathering celebrating the women who shape our communities. Join us Sunday, May 3rd from 1 to 6 p.m. Registration is open now, but space is limited. District 9 residents receive special priority. This event is free. Call 323-846-2651 to reserve your spot. That's 323-846-2651. Be rooted, be powerful, be there.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
What if your rooftop could earn you money every year? With LADWP's Solar Rooftops program, you can get solar panels installed and maintained on your home at no cost and earn up to $900 a year. That's up to $18,000 over 20 years. There are no upfront costs, no credit checks, and no annual fees. Plus, you'll help power Los Angeles with clean local solar energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Make your rooftop work for you. Apply today at ladwp.com/solar rooftops.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to Fat Meat Fridays and Reflectivity with Gina Towns. Gina is the president and CEO of 519 Productions and the executive producer, creative director, and program director of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Smiley's Audio Media's KBLA Talk 1580. She co-produced the Emmy Award nominated and documented Hampton University, One of the Wonders of the World, and as a songwriter, co-produced and performed her single, Yes, which hit number 26 with a bullet on the Billboard charts. Gina, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hi, Jesse.
Gina, let's talk far-reaching for a moment. When we were talking with the judge, we talked about it stretching all the way to Brown versus the Board of Education. And of course, the decision in 1954 laid the foundation for Rosa Parks to take her seat, demand that the Supreme Court interpretation actually apply to public transportation. It laid the foundation for the March for Jobs and Justice, which was 1963 in August, that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke at and delivered the I Have a Dream speech. It's not the I Have a Dream march. It was the March for Jobs and Justice, where Dr. King spoke and delivered the I Have a Dream speech. Then the 64 Civil Rights Act, the 65 Voting Rights Act, the public accommodations legislation, all of that is from the principle of equal protection under the law established by Brown versus the Board of Education. By chipping away and essentially obliterating, dropping a bomb on the Voting Rights Act of 1965, I've got to believe they're coming after Brown versus the Board of Education. And if they strike down that decision, the only remaining law is the one that Brown overturned, which is a separate and unequal society, justified by law and within the states. Gina, broad-reaching.
Broad-reaching and well-planned, I would say, because the first thing to do was to put DEI rejection in place and therefore get the electorate and our society used to the idea of let's not judge people or let's not give anyone a unfair advantage because they are diverse. You don't have to worry about being included, and there does not need to be equity. I mean, when you first heard the phrase, "Make America Great Again," a lot of people joked about it and said, whenever was it great? But you have to also at the same time, well, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? Because they're in power. And so if you're talking about make America great again, was it before the civil rights movement? Was it before Lincoln insisted upon the 13th Amendment? At what point do you say America was great? And then we have to look at what has been affected already. They already had gone after the 14th Amendment in citizenship. And so this has been like a slow boil. And it is really going to take, and the question that I posed to you is, it's going to take some mass education for the broader electorate to understand what has been done, because what was ushered in by the civil rights movement was civil rights for everybody. It wasn't just Black people who have benefited from it. Everybody, talks about that, but to think about all the people who have been a flood that have come through that gate. And where do we go from here? This is not just about Black people, but it does affect Black people. And so the coalitions that had previously been built, and I know a lot of times you talk about going from the rainbow to the pain bow. And there's a lot of pain, not just for Black people right now, but poor people, the disinherited, spans a lot of communities. And so how will we reach these people, and how will we get them motivated? How do we get this next generation to understand what really has happened, because they've only lived in the lap and the luxury, if you will, of being free?
I think we have to reach them where they are. I mean, we're constantly in search of the broadest possible platforms. One of the things that those of you who are out there in radio land and in cyber land can do is you can share the post, you can share the broadcast, you can expand it to the people in other generations that you know. You can call their attention to KBLA Talk 1580 by downloading the app. We have substantive conversations that younger generations of people need to hear, need to understand, and they need to participate in. Carolyn J. Ruff writes in our comments today, "Great show, Jesse Jr. Thank you, my friend. We're back to Jim Crow in the 1960s. This is 2026. I do not think I would have lived to see Jim Crow laws, and that's exactly where we are." Carolyn gets it. Carolyn gets it. Janine Smith says, "I believe that all of this will cause a domino effect, and all races will be negatively affected by these types of Supreme Court decisions." Janine Smith is getting it. Carolyn Ruff writes, "John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are a great team from Georgia. I truly hope Ossoff gets his seat back. That means we have to vote in Georgia." That's Carolyn, all the way from Georgia, telling us that we have to be engaged. And here's Dennis Hall. "This has been an absolutely fabulous broadcast, so informative. I've learned a lot, a great deal regarding the Supreme Court decision in Louisiana versus Calais and its impact on the Voting Rights Act. I'm thankful for Jesse Jr., an esteemed guest, bringing this awareness and insight. We should have hundreds of people listening to the show. There are only 5 African-American radio stations that are Black-owned in the entire United States that engage in talk radio on a daily basis, starting with Dominique DePrima from 6 to 9 in the morning and Tavis Smiley from 9 to 12 in the morning, to our show from 12 to 2. Gina?
But before we leave our listeners today, I do want to encourage everybody, because I wasn't able to sleep a lot this week, well, at least that night. And I got up and I Googled, because I needed to read again Project 2025 and the elimination of loans for college and the elimination of loans from the Small Business Administration. All of that is going away. And so I would encourage everybody in this word of hope I hope you go and read Project 2025 again and match it up to everything that's going on so that you can wake up some other people and snatch not only yourself, but others from this fire.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to Fat Meat Fridays right here on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. Make sure you put KBLA on your list and agenda of support. We need to get the word out to our people and to our community that a train is coming. And sometimes it's a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes it's a train that's coming in our way. And I think that's what we're looking at. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.